Now it's time to mix through our other percussive elements. We've got the main kick, we've got the clap, and we've got the open and the closed hats already mixed. So you'll see that all of the drums are grouped into one group. And we are going to go through each percussive element in sequence as quickly as possible. So we've got the main clap, clap 2. I brought all the levels down because the first stage is getting the levels about right before we do the reductive EQ. So we'll find a place that has got clap 2 happening. So we can just zoom in. Okay, it's here. And we will solo the drums and the kick. Okay, so it's just a kind of offbeat to finish the end of the bar. And that's about right in terms of level. So let's have a quick look at the frequencies. Okay, not really any work to be done there. There is a bit of low end which we'll cut out, can't really hear it, and it's low in the mix. But there's no point having it there, so we'll just get rid of that. Now something like this could be nice to put a bit of room reverb on it. Just to punctuate the end of that bar. Mono. Okay, that sounds good, and that's all we need to do for that. So next is this thing called Del Clap. Let's zoom out, see where that is. Okay, so that is kind of an intro into a break. Again, it's a minor part of the mix, so we'll just make sure that it doesn't have any undue frequencies. That sounds pretty good, and we don't want to take out that lovely rich mid-range because that's where the character of the sound comes from. So that's done. Now the rim shot, this is an important part of the mix. So I could have actually done this before these other percussive elements. So let's listen to the rim shot. We'll solo the kick and the drums. So we can hear that rim shot kind of drives that rhythm along, keeps the groove going. Sounds nice. So let's have a look at what's happening with the frequencies. Let's solo the rim shot. Use our reductive EQ. There's a bit of gain staging there. Okay. See, this is the fundamental frequency here, this kind of woody knock. And that gives the rhythm track a bit more low end, and that's why we don't just roll off the whole low end on the drum group, because some of our drum sounds have got low end, like toms and bongos. There are other drums that have nice low ends. Doesn't need any side chain compression, does it? Let's have a listen. It might just allow a little bit more room for the kick and the snare when they hit, or the kick and the snap. So I'm just going to copy that one from the bass so that the values are the same. Now let's have a listen. Now that's really subtle, but it just cuts off the ends of the rim shot so it doesn't clash with the kick. Almost inaudible, but these little things cumulatively over the whole mix will just allow more space and more headroom so we can get a louder master when it comes to the mastering stage. So let's listen to that in stereo. And if we look at our 4D mixing space, I'd actually like these rim shots to be to the left and right, far out in our stereo space, to give a bit more presence. So what I've done is actually I've set up on the auxiliary channels a specific delay that is just for the rim shot. So let's feed some of that in stereo and listen to what happens. So you can hear it gives it this stereo width. This is without it, in the center. And what I've done there is actually what's known as a Haas effect, and we're going to cover this in more detail in the Ninja Mixing Tips section of this course, but I'll give you a quick view at how I've done that. So what I've done is load up a ping pong delay on the auxiliary channel, 100% wet, and instead of syncing it to the track and having something like this, I've taken off sync and I've just done a very short delay, 21 milliseconds actually. And it makes it kind of sound like it's in a pipe. But it gives it this lovely stereo width. And the key to the Haas effect is making sure that the milliseconds delay is long enough that you can hear a stereo difference. For instance, if it's 1 millisecond, you won't hear any difference. And if it's too long, you'll hear it bouncing around, and that's not the effect we want. So about 21 milliseconds is quite good for the Haas effect at this tempo, of course. If your song's a lot slower or a lot faster, then your milliseconds will have to change accordingly to keep that effect. Okay, on to the next percussive elements. We will just solo the kick and the drums again. Put it in mono. And we've got this cowbell loop. Okay, so it's more than a cowbell loop. There is a clap in there as well. And a kind of bleepy sound. That sounds like a vengeance loop, but we're using it to bring weight into our drums. Bit of low end body. So all we want is that cowbell sound on the offbeat. So this is a perfect example of where sidechain compression is really going to help us. So this is with no sidechain compression. And you'll notice that the clap from this clashes with our main clap and kind of squashes it. Now with sidechain compression, you can hear that it's just allowing the cowbell to come through, but cutting out the clap. Now it sounds like there are some rogue frequencies in there as well, so we will use our standard chain and we'll put this before the sidechain compressor and equalizer for some reductive EQ. And let's just solo that. And that is all we need to do for that. Next is the triangle. Let's have a listen to this. Reductive EQ. Okay, there's not much going on in the low end at all. We might add a little bit of reverb. Just to gel it into our space, because it's further back in the mixing space, so we can add a little bit of reverb to make it feel like it's not right at the front of the stage. And we'll finalize all of these levels at the last stage of the mixing process, but we get them roughly where we want them, and we get rid of all the frequencies, process them how we want first, and then we can finalize every level a bit later on. And if you're worried if your drums aren't sounding as punchy or as fat as in the professional songs that you hear on the radio, don't worry, we're going to get to that stage in the bus mixing part of this walkthrough, as well as the parallel processing, and you really will hear a massive difference. And that is it for the miscellaneous percussive elements. In the next lesson we're going to mix the all-important synthesizers.